Is it ready?
Oh, yeah, it's been ready. Been waiting on you.
Oh, look at that. Welcome back to another episode of Two Fans, 12 Rings. Jeff here. Brad, what's up, dude?
Not a whole lot, man. I'm just chilling at home, unlike you down there in Florida. How's it been?
Yeah, down here in Inglewood, Florida, not to be confused with Inglewood, Los Angeles, where the Rams play. But Inglewood, Florida, we're just a little south of Sarasota, Florida. If you're watching the news lately, they got hit by a little bit of a hurricane. Hurricane Debbie, I think they're calling it. Not to be confused with Little Debbie, like the hostess or something.
So this is Hurricane Big Debbie.
Big Debbie.
Big Debbie. Big Debbie came
Debbie.
ashore yesterday.
Not to make a joke about a serious matter, because that's wrong. But yes. Actually, last Tuesday we recorded our third podcast, right?
Third team preview, yep.
Yeah, I can't remember what teams they were. But we did that, and then literally the very next day, I went and picked up my rental van and went and see Creed and Three Doors Down, and that was a good time. Really hot. Creed killed it. I didn't realize that I didn't know that many Creed songs. I thought that I knew more than I did. I obviously the four big ones that everybody knows, but then after that, it was pretty much there was two or three songs that I knew. But Three Doors Down, absolutely incredible. They played a great show too. And then literally we didn't get home till 2 a.m. that night. And then I proceeded to drive to Atlanta at 5 a.m. So about 3 hours sleep. I drove to Atlanta, where we caught the Braves game against the Marlins. Braves won. And then on about 3 hours more sleep, I drove to Lakeland, Florida, which is literally right smack dab between Orlando and Tampa. I've been here for a couple of days, going through some rainy days, but now we're over here by the beach in Inglewood and ready for the home stretch of the vacation. We're really just spending time with friends and hanging out, and it's been a good time watching Team USA basketball destroy Brazil as we speak.
Yeah, they're killing them. What, 34 points are up?
I got it at 112.80, so, but you might be a little bit ahead.
He's coming your way.
It's all good. But yeah, enjoying this Bush Peach, the warm weather, and now we're about to bust out a podcast.
Hell yeah, dude! That sounds like a blast. I've been to Florida once, but it was for one night before we took off on our cruise. But I did enjoy Florida. We did stop at Key West, which is technically Florida, I believe. So
yeah, I've never been to Miami/Key West, so you probably have that on me. But yeah, Florida's a really good time. You
probably got a lot of places.
Florida's a good time. Do you happen to have the last four teams we busted out?
I know them off the top of my head. It was the Bears, Jets, Vikings, and Broncos.
That's right. We obviously disagreed heavily on the Vikings. The rest of the teams, I think we were decently optimistic on as far as, where we were at. But today we got the Raiders, the Saints, the Colts, and the Seahawks. 8 and 9 win teams. So we're definitely getting better, and a lot of these teams have pretty nice upsides depending on how we feel about them. But anything before we jump into the Raiders?
I know just something that I noticed yesterday is that something I was really heavily thinking about, or not yesterday, but last pod, was Vikings under 6.5 wins. I know I was flirting with that, and you were definitely above that. For you, a lot of people agree with you that the Vikings will be better. But good news for me, so much so that they moved their win total to 7.5. So I will definitely be taking the under. People bet the over so hard on it, they actually moved it up a win to combat the amount of tickets that they were bringing in. So
yeah, 6.5 just feels really low. And I don't remember where I had them. I think I may have had them at 9 or 10 wins. And I don't think they're getting to 11 or 12. But if they only won 6 games, I would honestly be like, wow, what happened? I feel like they're better.
Their schedule is brutal. But peep last week's podcast to see our breakdown of the Vikings. We're starting this week with in the AFC. I think we got 2 AFC and 2 NFC teams here.
Yeah.
Raiders first.
Yeah, Raiders were 8-9 last year. Midway through the season, they fired Josh McDaniels, and their GM, name escapes me, Chad Kelly maybe, I don't remember. But they hired Antonio Pierce, former linebacker, Super Bowl winning linebacker from the Giants. And the team instantly responded to him. And the Raiders have done this multiple times where they fired the guy midseason. And the guy that took over for the job, the team responded to him and they didn't hire him. This time they did. It was like a third time's a charm type deal where they're like, we're gonna give this guy a chance. He is defensive minded, obviously. But take away the ads and losses for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, some of the big losses. They lose quarterback Jimmy G, running back Josh Jacobs, wide receiver Hunter Renfrow. They lose offensive line, couple defensive linemen. They sign running back Alexander Madison, who was the number 2 for the Vikings. Gardner Minshew to go along with Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. And the big Christian Wilkins, dominant defensive tackle from the Miami Dolphins, to join Max Crosby in the front 7. In their first 4 rounds, they took Brock Bowers. I mean, everybody knows who he is, tight end from Georgia. Jackson Powers Johnson, interior O-lineman from Oregon. Then they get a tackle, Delmar Glaze from Maryland, and DeCameron Richardson, corner from Mississippi State. They attack kind of everywhere. 2 guys in the trenches, 2 guys on the perimeter.
Yeah, obviously Wilkins, that is an instant impact player. You know what you're getting there. There have been, weirdly enough, a few instances where defensive tackles sign free agent deals and they go on to suck. I don't think this is that. They do take a weird position in the draft that most people didn't think they needed because they had just drafted Michael Mayer, but they double down 2 years in a row and take high round tight ends. This one in the first round in Brock Bowers, who was call it generational talent. That word's kind of thrown out a lot, but definitely a top tier. He's a generational talent and top tier tight end that we've seen over the course of the last decade in college football. And Georgia was better with him on the field and they won 2 national championships with him playing. So I think he literally lost like 2 career games, something wild. But Brock Bowers is great. And then obviously Jackson Powers Johnson, some people had him mocked to the first round and they get him. So essentially maybe get 2 first round picks if you want to look at it that way. Raiders though, Gardner Minshew's a weird ad because it's like, I think he's their starter. I don't think they've announced it yet, but as good as he played for Indianapolis and then to go out and get him, it's kind of like you're saying, Aiden O'Connell, you were all right, but we want a better transitional quarterback. What's your opinions on the quarterback situation before we even get into the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, whatever you think about it, we've crunched the numbers, and you can say watch the games, don't just look at the numbers, but statistically, he's Trevor Lawrence at the NFL level. So it's like whatever you think about, a later team we'll be talking about a little bit later at a future pod. But it's like Gardner Minshew, he's a little bit streaky. I think most people would call him a top-tier backup, but not a starter. But even as a top-tier backup, I don't know if I could name you 30 backs right now better than Gardner Minshew. Like, I'm just saying I think he's one of the top 32. He could deem a starter. I think he fits kind of like what this team is, a little bit out of character, locker room guy, which this team seems to heavily value what's going on in their locker room. They seem like a very emotional outfit, whether it's penalties or whether it's some games they get hot or some games they get blown out. They seem like they're a very emotional bunch. So if Antonio Pierce can bottle that and push it in the right direction, in which he do at the tail end of last season, I don't know. I think the Raiders are a very easy team to hear Las Vegas Raiders and be like, yeah, 6 to 9 wins. But like they could potentially be better than that. Like they're looking for stability at coach and quarterback. It seems like they've had some good things other places, but I like Zamir White. I like the running back. I know he's probably not Josh Jacobs, but I think he's good. Jacoby had a great season alongside Devontae Adams last year. And those 2 tight ends, Bowers and Mayer, there's so many things you can do as blockers and pass catchers. We talked about Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby, 2 guys who don't miss plays. Robert Spillane came over from the Steelers at middle linebacker, played really well. I think there's serious questions on the back end of this team against, good receiving cores. And I don't love their O-line. And when the O-line is, in my opinion, that you could struggle.
Yeah, this does feel like an interesting team because I feel like they completely changed their identity in a way. They let Josh Jacobs go, who's definitely a between the tackles workhorse back. Zamir White has, I mean, definitely some chance to be a great player. I just don't see him as an every down back, and it makes me wonder if going out and getting Brock Bowers, getting 2 tight ends, having Devontae Adams, having Jacoby Myers, and Gardner Minshew, who literally is known for just chucking the ball. I wonder if they're just going to throw the ball around a lot this year, like a team that's quietly going to probably lead the league in pass attempts and potentially passing yards. It just wonders if that's kind of, and I don't know who their offensive coordinator is. I'm not that savvy on the Raiders, but I wonder if that's his MO. Like, are they just going to chuck the ball around? Is that like they're going to play some decent defense and rush the passer and chuck the ball?
If you want to keep Devontae Adams, you certainly have to throw the ball quite a bit, and I mean he's going to reward you for that. But again, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, that's a nice trio. I mean, it sounds nice when they're all receivers, sure, but that's a 3-headed receiving monster that's going to be a struggle to deal with.
Yeah, I think the Raiders are going to be fun offensively, and you could probably start a couple of different guys fantasy wise. Anything more on the Raiders before we hit these schedules?
I didn't mention later in the draft, but potential middle linebacker to watch out for. They did get Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State, and Ohio State does pump out pretty good defensive players. So there's a chance he comes on the scene, and the rookies. We'll just have to see how their rookies do because they could bolster at linebacker and corner if their rookies end up playing well.
Well, let's go ahead and bust through their schedule here. We'll see how many wins we get them.
Okay. I did end work going through these schedules with a guy of mine, a buddy of mine, shout out Chris Hoffman. We went through some of these schedules. They're pretty interesting, but we'll get to it here. Week 1 at the Los Angeles Chargers.
Loss. Now, mind you, I don't have my same notebook that I've been using the last 3 pods, so I can't go back and look to see what I gave somebody, but I know I gave the Chargers a week 1 win.
Okay, they lose to Jim Harbaugh, and then they go to John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens.
This feels like a back-to-back loss to the Harbaugh brothers.
I think so too. Yeah. They are then back.
Though, Raiders defensive line, Lamar Jackson, fun matchup.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, Max Crosby and Wilkins against that O-line for the Chargers. Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater. I mean, it'd be fun. Week 3, they have their home opener. Carolina.
This definitely feels like a win. I don't love Carolina, and I think the Raiders will win a bunch of games, but I don't know how much a bunch is yet.
Yeah, first win. They got a pretty tough schedule. They are then back-to-back home games. They play the Cleveland Browns.
Feels like a loss. I like the Browns. I'm giving the Browns a road win here.
Yeah, we do have to remember last year Browns number 1 in the National Football League at home, number 32 on the road. Really? That's a real statistic. They were number 1 in the defense at home, number 32 on the road. That's blasphemy, especially since they had a fraud defensive player of the year on their team. But, I mean, that's crazy. So, but I am also going to give the Browns a road win here. The Raiders then go on the road to the Denver Broncos.
This feels like a win for the Raiders.
I like the Raiders to take care of the Broncos. Raiders come back home and they play the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh boy, yeah, I like the Steelers here.
Yeah, my opinion is the Steelers beat them last year with Kenny Pickett. I think the Steelers are a better team this year. We have them at 2-4. Now I'm just going to kind next 3 games: at Rams, home against Chiefs, at Bengals. That's their. So, by the way, after Cleveland, it's away, home, away, home, away. They don't have their only back-to-back road spot is Carolina, Cleveland so far.
I have them at 0-3 in that.
I'm going to have them take 1. And the reason why is because the Rams O-line percent no. Wilkins and Max could cause problems. Young defense. They play the Chiefs very hard, but remember the Kermit the Crab or a Kermit the Frog video. This is the first time Chiefs play the Raiders out for blood at the Bengals. It's a tough spot. It's just this is the NFL, so I'd like to give them 1 win in those 3, but I'm just not 100% sure where they're at, where it's at. So I have them at 3-6 through 9 games.
I have them at 2-7, 2-7.
I stopped here to do a check because this is their bye week, week 10. This, if they're doing this bad, it could be Aiden O'Connell now at this point. Who knows? They come out of their bye, and they're at the Miami Dolphins.
Dolphins at home are tough to beat. I'm going to give them a loss here.
With the loss, but also we'll get to the Dolphins. But remember, they added Jordan Poyer. So they have Javon Holland, Jordan Poyer, Jalen Ramsey. So a lot of people say they lost a few pieces in their front 7, but they're going to be able to stack that box pretty heavily. I know they lose Xavier Howard, but Jalen Ramsey, those safeties, you can put 7 in the box every play. Then they're home against Denver. Are they sweeping Denver?
Yeah, I think they're sweeping Denver here.
Okay. Then at Chiefs, at Buccaneers.
At Chiefs, sorry.
You're
at
good.
Chiefs, at Buccaneers.
Yes. I have loss.
I don't know. So I had them losing to the Chiefs. I do think they split with the Chiefs. It's probably not here they win, but I'm going to give them the win here because I didn't give them earlier. The Buccaneers is an interesting one. I'm going to give them
they have the corners. Huh?
I'm going to give them the win against the Bucs.
Okay. I am not. They're then finally the Raiders have a primetime game, week 15. Monday night against the Atlanta Falcons.
That's a weird prime time.
The number 3 ranked O-line. Kirk Cousins in primetime, but
Falcons win.
I like the Raiders here, actually, in a weird way. I like the Raiders. They're then home again. Their second back-to-back road spot, home against Jacksonville Jaguars. I like the Raiders to get a little shock win here. Back-to-back wins at home.
No, I think this is a loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay. At the New Orleans Saints. Loss.
We're going to do them next. This is an important win. The defense of the Saints I like more. I like the offense of the Raiders more. It's an offensive league, but it is on the road. I'm going to give them a loss and the Saints the win.
And then fun little scheduling nugget. Week 1, week 18, Chargers. This time in Las Vegas.
They're losing here.
I agree. I think the Raiders are better than 6-11, but that's what I have them.
I have them at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 12. And I'm going to assume that they're over under.
You have them at 5 wins, I have them at 6.
It's 5.5, isn't it?
It is 6.5.
Oh.
So the Raiders win-loss is 6.5. Plus 310, missed playoffs 420, win the Super Bowl plus 10,000, and win the division plus 900. I forgot to get it beforehand, but last year they were 8-9. I
Yeah.
also think last year, that end of the season push they had under a new coach, new blood, change it up a little bit, was the momentum they needed. I'm not so sure that carries over to the next season. Jim Harbaugh makes the more difficult. If he loses twice to Jim Harbaugh and twice to the Chiefs, which I know they play the Chiefs tough, but it's like, I don't know. I'm not going to predict them to do that. So I have them 2-4 in division. I did have them sweeping the Broncos.
Yeah. I guess I had them 3-3 in division.
Which isn't the worst thing.
No. Ready for the Saints?
Yep, I'm just grabbing something real quick. I forgot to get their last year record. You usually have that, but you're in Florida, so.
I have it. I have them all.
Oh, well then I will stop doing that. I'm ready for the Saints.
I said the Raiders 8-9.
I missed it. Sorry.
All right. Here goes the Saints. Saints were 9-8 last year. They did retain Dennis Allen for another season. It does seem like this team's constantly in cap hell, and they just keep kind of backcharging the future, if you will. But go ahead and take it away with ads, losses, and outlook of this team. They're not a whole lot's changed. There's not a whole lot of storylines going into this team.
Yeah, they lose a corner I've never heard of. Linebacker Zach Bond, Malcolm Roach, a D tackle, and quarterback Jameis Winston. So not a ton of guys that I'm familiar with outside of Jameis. They do add Chase Young, defensive end, who when healthy plays good. Willie Gay Jr., middle linebacker from the Chiefs. He's a good player. And wide receiver Cedric Wilson Jr., who, if nothing else, at least stretched the field, as a number 2 or number 3 receiver. In the draft round 1, they get a big tackle, Talisi Fuaga from Oregon State, and then they add Kool-Aid McKinstry to the defensive back room. Round 5, they get Spencer Rattler, and the only other name that I'm familiar with, a bigger school. In round 5, they got middle linebacker Jalen Ford, who led Texas in tackles. He had over 100 tackles in his last year at college. So through the draft, that's what they add. I feel like they got better this season.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler is an interesting add at quarterback late in the draft. This team, the one thing you can say about the Saints, you've been able to say this for a decade, they draft very well. They've always drafted well. You typically don't miss on too many players. They've just unfortunately been in a roulette of cap hell. It's just a continuous Ferris wheel. They let it go to the top, but it comes right back down at the end once they've completed their cycle. And they refuse to kind of just eat a bad season. So they're still going to be a team that wins 7 to 9 games. It's what it is. It's part of the division, part of the fact that they're run pretty well. They have talented players, but they did upgrade at quarterback last year, and I think that is a result of the 9 wins, and I think they're still going to hover somewhere between that 7 to 9 win range unless, an injury or something happens. But, yeah.
I feel like the Saints, when you really break down their roster, they're better than you. A lot of people, I think, are just assuming, they're just going to not be good this year. Like, this is when they go down. But it's like their division is very in a lot of newness. I know we don't really believe in the head coach, but Derek Carr and Spencer Rattler. Don't forget about Taysom Hill, the weapon. Chris Olave, Raheed Shaheed, Cedric Wilson Jr., Equinemius St. Brown. I know that's not a glorious receiving room, but Chris Olave is a number 1. I think most people would agree. You have 2 young tackles in Trevor Penning, Talisi Fuaga. Cesar Ruiz is a really good interior O-line, so their O-line is good. On defense, it's led by veterans, Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, Marshawn Lattimore. But you add in new guys, Willie Gay, who's been there, done that, Super Bowl champion. You add Kool-Aid McKinstry at corner. You add Chase Young to the defensive line, and it's a defensive head coach. So this team has I think you could say probably one of the 5 best home field advantages down there in Louisiana. It gets loud in there. It's built for that. you just hope for, if you're a Saints fan, you just hope for consistency from the quarterback position, and you hope if you don't get it from Derek, they switch to Spencer and you see what you've got. But I do think this team is going to win, just off the top of my head, just more games than I think you think they're going to win. Not you specifically, but anyone listening. You may be going in like Saints are 5 or 6 win team. This is one of the teams I can use to give the teams I think that are going to do good a loss. I can just walk through them and hand out L's to everyone else. I don't think the Saints are going to be that kind of team. I don't think they're a pushover team. And at the end of the day, all this love for the Falcons, including from me, the Baker Mayfield, the new look, like him at the Bucs, revive his career. I don't think it's out of the question for the Saints to potentially compete for this division.
Yeah, I think they're set up to win games because they do have such an all-pro / veteran leader / Pro Bowl style player at every level of defense. Literally, defensive line, linebacker, corner, safety. They are set up with a dude at every spot. They do have a veteran quarterback. They do have a wide receiver one. They do have a solid offensive line because they've always drafted offensive linemen well, and they just went out and got another one in the first round. Is Dennis Allen a good coach? I'm not like in love with Dennis Allen. He is a good defensive coach. He's had success defensively throughout his career. But yeah, I think the Saints, like you said, they're a good enough team to win any game, any week. But I don't know that they're winning 12 of those, but they definitely can compete with their division. Let's bust through the schedule.
It does suck that Ryan Ramczyk is out for the entire season. It says that with a knee injury, he'll miss the entirety of 2024. I think that stems from last year, but he's, it just sucks that you don't have them. But you said you want to get right.
Unless you got something else. Yeah, let's hit it.
No, that's fine. Just remember, this is also Derek Carr's second year in the system.
Yep.
So, okay. Saints, last year, 9-8. Here we go. Week 1. Oh, hold on. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I was confused a second. Week 1, they host the Panthers.
I was literally just before you got started, I almost said, well, they have 2 free wins with the Panthers. They're beating the Panthers.
Yeah, for some reason I thought when I went through the Raiders schedule, I had them Panthers week 1, but it's just both the teams' home openers are the Panthers for some reason. But yeah, 1-0. Then they're at the Dallas Cowboys.
At the Dallas Cowboys. Loss.
I think Marshawn Lattimore and CeeDee Lamb's an interesting matchup. I trust the Saints running game and offensive line more at this point. They would be crazy, but give me a win here, 2-0.
No, I don't think it's crazy. It made me think.
Home against the Eagles.
Home against the Eagles is
I have a loss.
Win.
So we have them splitting against the NFC East. We have noticed on the pods, especially going back through with Chris. Shout out Chris again. You've been handing out the Eagles a ton of losses. I can't wait to break them down in about 2 weeks, a week or two. But it is 2-1. Then they're
he said that I have, you have, or we have.
You specifically have given, like, the Cardinals have caught a dub, the Commanders.
I do think all these. Spoiler, I do think there's something to that late season collapse. I don't know what it is, but there's something there. Yeah. This is 1,000% Eagles are winning minimum 8 games, but they're not winning 14 or 15 like they've been coasting to. And 13 seems high, 12 seems high. They might be in that 8 to 10 range.
Okay. We'll see how it goes. They are like in the early 20s, so I think not next pod, but the pod after. Anyway, we both have them 2-1. Now they are on the road again. Home, away, home, away. They're at the Falcons.
At the Falcons is a loss.
2-2. They're then back-to-back road spot at the Chiefs on Monday Night Football.
That is a loss.
Agree. Home against the Buccaneers. No Mike Evans, no Lattimore. This is 10 on 10. This is 10 on 10 football.
I like the Saints here.
I like the Saints at home. They are then back-to-back home spot, but short week, Thursday night, Denver Broncos, Sean Payton revenge game. It's going to be loud in New Orleans.
Like the Saints here.
I do too. 4-3. I think we're both 4-3, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. At the Los Angeles Chargers.
That's a loss.
At the Carolina Panthers.
That is a win.
Home against the Falcons.
I had them. Week 4 was against the Falcons, correct?
At the Falcons, yep.
Yeah, they're going to win this one. They're split with the Falcons.
I agree. And then they're home again versus the Cleveland Browns.
Home, I'm going to give them the win.
Me too. 7-4. Heading into the bye week, week 12. Saints are out here things. Home against the Rams.
Loss.
Yeah, off the bye, I still like the Rams here. At the New York Giants.
That's a win.
Yeah, New York's offense doesn't really do much, I don't think, here. Home against the Washington Commanders. Remember, we talked about Jaden Daniels coming back to you.
Yeah. I don't remember who I picked for that game, but this does feel like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins right now for the Saints. And in a playoff spot, this feels like a win.
I'm giving it to the Commanders. 8-6 for me. Then Monday night, December 23rd, at the Green Bay Packers.
Loss.
Agreed. Home against the Las Vegas Raiders. We both just gave the Saints the win here. And then they finish at Tampa, where I think they lose a potential game for the division. I have them at 9-8.
At Tampa,
Yes.
you give them the win. I have them at a whopping 10-7.
10-7.
Seems high.
It does seem high, but the team's honestly not that bad. We've seen Derek Carr drag the Raiders to the playoffs before.
We have. And, people said last year, give Derek Carr defense, he'll get you there. He won 9 last year. I could see an improvement to 8 or 10.
I have 9, you have 10. What's their win-loss over-under?
7.5.
It is.
I thought I was too high as I was going.
Well, who knows? Maybe Vegas is too low.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of where I had Vegas at. I think they'd probably be at 7.5. The games that kind of I gave the Saints a win against the Eagles. I gave them a sweep against the Bucks. I gave them a sweep against the Panthers. I have them going 5-1 in division. That might be too much. I gave them a win against the Commanders. I gave them a win against somebody else too. Oh,
we both had the Browns losing.
The Browns, yeah. So I gave them a lot of wins.
Yeah, I have them splitting with Tampa. I think that's mainly where we disagree. And I don't feel great about giving them the win versus the Browns. So I could see this team, Seven's their floor, though. If they won less than 7 games, I'd be shocked. Like, this is not a 5-win handing out W's to everybody team, I don't think.
I agree. This
Um,
is the middle of the road contending for a playoff spot in the NFC South. And if they're a bottom feeding team, they're beating a lot of good teams along the way.
I think it might be worth trying out the waters on plus 380 to win the division. Make the playoffs plus 186, miss 35, Super Bowl plus 10,000. But in this division, who knows what happens with Kirk and the new look Falcons if he gets hurt, Michael Penix, what's going on there. The Buccaneers lost their offensive coordinator, Shaq Barrett retired, and I believe Devin White's gone. So, like, this Saints team has the most coming back, I think, of any of the teams. If they improve by a win, that's 10-7, which could definitely take this division. So I think that might be worth a play for some of you gamblers out there.
Ready to talk about the Indianapolis Colts?
I think I am.
Well, the Indianapolis Colts last year went 9-8. Despite so many things not going well for them. They draft Anthony Richardson out of Florida. He comes in, and he's their week 1 starter. They were not messing around last year. But he played 5 games and got injured in 4 of them, including getting hurt for the entire year. They were without Jonathan Taylor for the first 4 games on the PUP list. Basically some contract issues and then some things like that. This team just never really had it together. Their longtime All-Pro, Shaquille Leonard, I think is his actual name, or Darius, whatever you want to call him. They ended up cutting him midway through the season. Just everything that you think you knew about this team just seemed to be thrown out the window, and yet they still win 9 games. A lot of that has to do with their offensive play calling just completely getting changed with the new head coach of bail me out.
Shane
Steichen, thank you. And it seemed to have worked. What are your thoughts on the Colts?
Yeah, I love the Colts coming in this offseason. They kind of got rid of the baggage last year. Ready to go now this year. Anthony Richardson with a Joe Flacco sitting behind him who showed he can still play if he's called upon. Jonathan Taylor, who is an every down top back in the league. Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs are on the scene. Love the addition of Adonai Mitchell in the draft. Their offensive line is pretty stout. Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson. Then on defense, we can go through just the ads real quick. I accidentally just deleted page, but they took Leatu Latu in the first round and then Adonai Mitchell in the second, followed by 2 offensive linemen. So it was easier to cut Shaq Leonard when he's hurt all the time, and Zaire Franklin had a tremendous season at the linebacker position. Kwity Paye comes back. DeForest Buckner's a top 5 D tackle in the league. They have some questions in the secondary outside of Kenny Moore, their slot corner, but Julian Blackman back there. I think their defensive secondary questions, their front 7 gets after it. It's good enough. And I think offensively, they have a chance to be extremely dynamic. They might lead time of possession in 80% of the games they play. I really like what they're doing with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor in the backfield.
Yeah, here's the thing about Anthony Richardson at this point. You have to predict the Colts as if you think he's going to be healthy. You have to just assume what we watched was kind of a fluke, so to speak, even though he got hurt 4 out of 5 games, and I think there were 3 different injuries. So, he could just be a fragile player, and that's who he is. Or this could have just been one of those things where he's adjusting to the NFL and the hits hurt more. Who really knows? I'm not going to predict injuries, and I'm going to go through this thing as if I think A-Rich is going to be good to go.
Yeah, and also with the secondary, you never know what rookies can do, but in the 5th and 6th round, they took safety corner. If one of those guys pops off and decides to work, 2 of those guys are SEC guys. So if one of them decides to pop off and be an addition, they'll take any help they can get on the back end. And yes, Anthony Richardson, you may not think he's a world beater, but he's a guy who can keep moving the chains. He might not pick you apart with his arm accuracy, but who knows, for the next 5, is he going to be a bust who's always hurt and the Colts have to move on? Or if you're a Colts fan, hey man, we have the next Cam Newton for 5 to 7 years with an offense that's built for his play style. So we still have to wait and see. I'm not saying that he's going to be the former or the latter, but what I saw is it wasn't like he was fragile. He got hit one time and his head snapped on the turf, and then something just went in his shoulder. I don't know. I'm not going to predict him to be injury riddled. He just had a few hits. He's got to learn to get out of the way, but I think this team could be good. I'm very excited to see what they are. This is a team I can't wait to watch. Every year I say that about the Colts. I like the Colts a lot.
I do think that Adonai Mitchell needs to be their wide receiver 1 if they're going to be a next level team, if that makes sense.
Well, I will say they've wanted Josh Downs in the slot. Mm-hmm. So Adonai Mitchell, I think in 3 receiver sets or even receiver sets, he will play over Josh Downs. Hardly ever do you have just 1 receiver sets anymore in today's NFL. So Pittman and Mitchell, and if you look up anything from training camp, of course, a lot of their stuff will pop up because 1, I like the Colts, and 2, Texas, Adonai Mitchell. He looks pretty good so far. We'll see how it turns out, though. We just spoke about the Colts secondary isn't great. So what's he going up against? We'll see.
Well, let's bust through the schedule.
Week 1, home against the Texans. Now remember, for the playoffs, they lost to the Texans in the final game of the year last year.
I still think the Texans are better, especially with the Colts' weak secondary. I'm going to give them a loss here.
Colts, I think when you talk about regular season week running the ball, I just think week 1, their offense translates better than all the new pieces and throwing the ball around for the Texans. I know everybody's super high on the Texans, and rightly so. I may be as well, but I'm giving the Colts a win at home. Revenge game, man. They ended our season. Let's go out and punch them in the mouth. I'm going to take the Colts.
Yeah.
Week 2 at Green Bay Packers.
It's a tough start for them. 0-2.
I have a loss. Now I'm going to say these 2 with a comment real quick. They come back home, and it's back-to-back home games, Bears-Steelers. I personally just think that they lose one of these. I think they get 1 or 2 games at home. I will point out that the Steelers, they play Lamar and running quarterbacks typically well. So Anthony Richardson, they at least have a template for him. But the Bears, on the other hand, that passing game potentially against a weaker defensive secondary, I think the Bears in a dome could put on a show. I like the Colts to go 1-1 in these 2 games.
I don't think they go 0-4, but I have them at 0-4 right now.
I'm glad you're on board with the Steelers being good. I see the love. I appreciate that. Week 5. We'll go 5-6. Back-to-back road spot divisional games. Jags-Titans. Lose to the Jag, beat the Titans.
Disagree. I swap them.
Okay.
They're beating the Jags, losing to the Titans.
So right now you have them at 1-5.
I do, but I think they're going to pick up steam. I'd have to see how the schedule looks, but I think they've had some tough opponents.
We'll see. Week 7, home against the Miami Dolphins.
Give me a W for the Colts here.
I think Miami might put up 40. I like Miami to just put.
Indianapolis closed it
Then,
down at home.
ooh, I like that play. The front seven's a little weak. They push them around town.
Yep, just run the ball.
They're finally home. By the way, I don't understand why there's so many at symbols on the schedule, but they're at Jacksonville, at Tennessee, home against the Dolphins, and then they go on the road again twice in a row.
Where and
But
where?
hold on a second. I have to decide. Yeah, I'm going to give Miami that win. They're at the Texans and then at the Vikings. Lose to the Texans to split, beat the Vikings.
Dude, the Colts are not this bad.
It lightens up after this game.
I have them going 1-1 here.
Their next 3 games are Bills, Jets, Lions. So let's one at a time. They come back home.
Beat the Bills.
They are going to beat the Bills. Then they're on the road against the Jets, where they're going to lose.
They're going to beat the Jets, too.
And they're going to lose to the Lions as well.
They're going to lose the Lions, I agree.
And then they're at the Patriots.
They're going to beat the Patriots.
I think so, too. So 1 second. 1, 2, 3. So through 13 games, I have them at 6-7. Where do you have them?
6-7.
They hit their bye week. Now, can they win 4 straight after the bye and end at 10-7 and make a playoff push? Let's see. After the bye week, December 5th, they're at the Denver Broncos. Shane Steichen off of a bye. I'm going to take them.
Win.
At home versus the Titans. They'll split, so I have them winning.
Win.
Then they're at the New York Giants.
Win. Holy cow.
They finish at home against the only team they beat every time at home, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I have them winning their last 5 games.
And a bye. So the last 6 weeks they're winning on a heater and 10-7. Do they sneak into the playoffs?
I actually have them finishing the season 10-3.
Took Anthony Richardson a second to settle down. We both have them 10.
Is there over under 8.5?
It is. You're nailing it.
Feeling good.
10-7 though. God, I can't wait till NFL's on my TV. Red Zone, 4 box in it, 3 TV in it. We're so close. Did you know we're 18 days away from college football?
Wild. Patriots play Thursday night. I'll be here in this Airbnb.
The Steelers NFL Network for the Friday night game versus the Texans. And just a little heads up, if you are trying to bet preseason, I know there's a lot of backups, but the Steelers only have 3 quarterbacks on their rosters. Kyle Allen, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. And there's a real quarterback battle for Justin and Russ. They're both cheap. They're both in a battle. Steelers are going to want to see a lot of them. I'm just saying, if you trust those quarterbacks, at least in preseason football, it might be worth a $10 to kind of take the Steelers in some of these.
Truthfully, I don't think Russ plays Thursday night, but I could totally see Justin playing for a couple series. And then Kyle Allen is actually, I don't know how well you know Kyle Allen.
Not bad.
He's a veteran, dude. He's played a long time.
He played with Josh Allen for a couple of years.
Yes. Yep, he was a Carolina Panthers starting quarterback for a couple of years too.
Oh, that's where he got drafted, isn't it?
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to speak out of turn here. Kyle Allen might have been the highest recruit coming out of high school when he went to college. He was highly touted. Kyle can really.
I guess it Yeah, obviously his NFL career, I'm not sitting here saying like we'll be fine with Kyle Allen, forget the other two. But
No.
in preseason football,
Yeah.
not a bad way to try and pick up, an extra T-belt order by betting 10 or 15 on the Steelers.
Then again, the Texans are going to be starting Dougie Mills, so. Dude, we're pro Dougie on this pod.
We are, but we're starting T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith all 4 quarters. We need to get these
Not
boys
a
right.
chance. TJ doesn't see a snap. There's 0% chance.
TJ will be in a backwards hat, cut off with a tablet in his hand, studying something. I don't know.
Calling defensive assignments out.
Whatever TJ wants to do to pump out fucking 19 sacks a season, he wants. He can do whatever he wants.
Are we ready for the Seattle Seahawks?
I think we're ready for the Seattle Seahawks.
Seems fun. Seattle went 9-8 last year, but unfortunately that was only third in the NFC West. Very tough division. And after a very, very, very long partnership, they parted ways with head coach Pete Carroll. He is somewhat in the office now. But they hire Mike McDaniel, who was famous for running the Ravens defense, coming to Michigan and helping them.
Mike McDonald.
Mike McDonald. What did I say?
McDaniel, the head coach for the Dolphins.
My apologies.
It's all good. It's all good. Some people might have known what you meant.
Yep, Mike McDonald, famous for coaching the Ravens defense, heading to Michigan to help them beat Ohio State in 21, heading back to the Ravens for a couple of seasons, and now he gets a head coaching spot. I think Mike's great. I think this is a cool hire for them. Unfortunately, defensive head coaches are in an uphill battle in today's NFL, so I do think that there's a little bit there. I don't love the quarterback situation in Seattle. That's like the only negative I have on this entire team because I think they are a very good football team. But you lose Pete Carroll, you get a rookie head coach, and he's defensive. I don't have high hopes. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah, I don't either. It all depends. In the wise words of the NFL, it all depends on quarterback play. I don't know how many teams, we just talked about the Steelers briefly, but go 3-ish in their quarterback room. Geno Smith, Sam Howell, PJ Walker. Not saying they're top of the line, but I don't think this team will ever feel like they just don't have a quarterback. Love their running back room. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, really good. This team's competing for best top 3 wide receiver league. I'm not saying it is them, but DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jack Smith, and Jigba. Noah Fant, the O-line produces. And you talked about McDonald. Leonard Williams, and let's just go to the draft. Byron Murphy, number 1 D tackle off the board, sitting next to Leonard Williams. That's a lot of pressure in the middle of the pocket. They take guard, linebacker, tight end. A lot of picks later in the draft. But then they also add linebacker Jerome Baker and Tyrell Dodson. They had a safety, another D tackle, corner, quarterback. They do lose Bobby Wagner and Will Dissly, Drew Lock. Those guys are whatever. They knew Will Dissly was.
They just lost Quandre Diggs the other day too to the Titans.
Oh, they did. Well, speaking of the Titans, peep that pod. Quandre Diggs and L'Jarius Sneed, Jeffrey Simmons up front. Hell, watch out. The AFC South. Give me any team I'm watching.
Can't wait for the AFC South. Can't wait for the AFC South.
I'll have to see if it's on FanDuel. I'll have to look eventually. But in one of the gambling podcasts I listen to, where they bet, you can bet this, but you can go by division. And you can bet the division to have the most combined wins with all 4 teams. The AFC South has the second lowest total. Only the NFC South is lower for most total wins in division. I just think that could be a fun play if you're out there for some long shots. But that's, who they added and what's on their roster. This defense, Julian Love, young safety, played really well. Tyreek Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, 2 young, tremendous defensive player of the year candidates at corner. Well, they were both defensive rookie of the year candidates back-to-back years. They draft Kobe Bryant out of Cincinnati. So this defense is young. Mike McDonald again. He's going to have the boys flying around. In a division with the Rams and 49ers, they kind of feel dead to me. A lot of people Shane Connor and the Pat McAfee show. A lot of people, I would have to say, I don't feel the same way, but I'm a Steelers fan. They kind of feel like the Seahawks and Steelers and the NFC and AFC are kind of the same thing. They're a team you can't count out. They may have a good roster. You want better quarterback play. And at the end of the day, because of the 49ers, Rams, or the Ravens, Bengals, you just kind of feel like there's a cap on what they can achieve based on the division they're in. Like, and if you try and look for them, you could similarities between the Steelers and Seahawks. I guess it just depends on what roster and coach you prefer. Obviously, it was Pete Carroll, Mike Tomlin, but go ahead. Any thoughts on the Seahawks?
I think you just nailed it. I think you just nailed it with them as far as comping them. Very good team. We think they're going to be competitive, but there's just kind of a ceiling because the two teams ahead of them just feel better. But we do think that they're right there and can compete and can beat those teams as well. So one thing we didn't touch on, and I am curious of what your opinion is. I don't think Geno Smith's the week one. I think Sam Howell is. Opinions?
You think Sam Howell beats out Geno?
I think Sam's better.
I think Sam has better arm talent, but when you have a defensive head coach, you can not stay overs. And I think Sam Howell's a little bit, he'll take more risks. You'll get more big plays. You may have games with more points. But at the same time, if you want your defense set up in a good position, protect your side of the ball, you want to punt, take care of the ball. I just think if this was an offensive head coach, Sam Howell could be the starter. But I also think McDonald is young enough and forward thinking enough that, like, yeah, if this isn't working with Geno, there's a reason we brought Sam Howell in.
Yeah.
Drew Lock. We're going to cycle this thing out till we figure out who our quarterback is. But you look at Lamar, you look at J.J. McCarthy, the quarterbacks he's had, they don't really turn the ball over. They're okay with a punt, and we'll get this thing next time. So that's where my take is.
Yeah. You know what? That's probably a good take, honestly, because Geno doesn't turn the ball over. He's pretty good with that. He always has been. Yeah, I think you're probably right. But I do think Sam's the better option if they're going to try and win a bunch of games, but time will tell.
Hey, Jeff, if we got on Matt tonight, depth chart, I'm putting Sam Howell in.
Yes.
So, but again, it's just like in the reality of things, I don't think. Just a quick glance. I think it's a pretty workable schedule. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, who they got week one?
By the way, real quick, just I know I should have got this nugget out a little bit sooner, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The NFC is the team this year, or the conference that has more home games. The AFC has 8. Obviously, that flip-flops. Week 1, home against the Denver Broncos.
Win.
I like it. They're off to a hot start, dude. Bet them to win the Super Bowl now. 1-0.
Yeah.
Week 2 at the New England Patriots.
Win.
I agree. They're back home week 3. This is a nice spot to be home. Early in the year, you bring Miami out to Seattle. You don't want to go to Miami, and Miami loses a home game early. So hear me out. Those corners can play well enough. Tua's immobile, so it's like you know where you're blitzing. And Seattle might go for 230 rushing yards as a team. Again, they're 3-0, bro. Miami's not going to. And now some people listening are like, Miami's not losing to the Seahawks. Miami's better.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are.
On a computer sheet, I think Miami is better. But I think I've said Miami's name in all 4 breakdowns this pod. And Miami's tremendous. Shout out, Chris. They are tremendous, I think. I think they're a really good team. But they can't go 17-0. This is a loss here. Seattle's 3-0, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Look at
I am 3-0.
Hey, this might set up. We haven't broken them down yet. I kind of want to go peep here in a second. Let me just take a quick detour. Their 4th game, Monday Night Football, at the Detroit Lions.
So
Now, I just want to do. So let me just do something real quick. I went to the Lions schedule. Week 1, home against the Rams.
loss.
I think the Lions. You have a loss?
Yeah.
Damn. Home against Tampa.
Win.
At the Cardinals.
Win.
That's a win as well. Okay. If they were to beat the Rams on Sunday night, this is 3-0 versus 3-0 on Monday Night Football. I think that's in the cards.
Oh, it's
But
totally in the cards.
I mean, even still, these teams look to me like 2-1.
Yeah.
Or good Monday Night Football game here, though. But Monday Night Football at the Lions.
I believe the last 2 years they have played each other, and both times the games have been high scoring. If I'm not
40
mistaken.
points apiece. Yeah, it's been crazy.
Give me Seattle to move to 4-0. They're home, right?
No shot, brother. They're losing to the Lions.
They're home, right?
No, they're at Detroit.
Oh,
Sorry.
give Seattle the win.
Okay, September is Seattle. All right, Sunday next week, week 5, home against the Giants.
Wow, 5-0, and they're the surprise team in the league.
I think they're 4-1, but maybe still the surprise team in the league. Back-to-back home spot as the 4-1 Seattle bring into town the 49ers.
Loss.
Agreed. Then they go, that's a Thursday night game too, short week after Giants into the 49ers. Then they're at the Atlanta Falcons. That's a 1:00 spot cross country, but they do have a long week into it.
Loss.
And for Seattle. Are we both at 5-2?
Yeah.
Okay. Back-to-back home games. Bills, Rams.
This is tough.
I'm
After
gonna go
starting
1-1.
5-0, I have them dropping 4 in a row.
I have them going 1-1 here. So week 10 is their bye week through 9. Where do you have them?
5-4.
I have them 6-3. So after the bye, they're at the 49ers. I think they get swept.
Another loss. 5 in a row they've dropped. Wow.
Sam Howell coming in.
Yeah, probably.
All right. So after the 49ers, they're home against the Cardinals.
Win.
Then they're at the Jets.
Win.
Loss. Then they're at the Cardinals. Win.
Win.
Home against the Packers. Loss.
Win.
Home against the Vikings. Win.
Loss.
Holy shit. We could bet against each other every week on the Seattle Seahawks. Then, okay, by the way, the Green Bay game, the home against Green Bay, week 15, is Sunday Night Football. That should be a good one. Now it's week 17, December 20th, the final Thursday Night Football game at the Chicago Bears. Loss.
I don't remember who I gave this one to. I feels like a loss.
And then they finish January 5th at the Los Angeles Rams.
Win.
Loss. What were they last year?
9-8. I have them 10-7.
You have them 10-7, and I have them 9-8 once again. Hey, that was a fun breakdown on the schedule. I didn't think that was going to be that fun. That was a lot of fun, actually. So 9-8.
Are they 9.5?
Lower.
8.5?
Lower. They're 7.5. We have them at 9 and 10 wins.
The rookie head coach and not the rookie quarterback, but the unknown quarterback situation, 7.5 feels fine, but I do think they're a better team than that.
I do too. Win the division plus 700, make playoffs plus 184, miss minus 230. But making the playoffs at plus 184 is not a bad bet for this team. I don't think they have a shot at division, but wild cards. But when you talk about, let's say, Saints, Buccaneers, Falcons, those three teams kind of out there, either the Cowboys or Eagles, then the NFC North, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to get in the playoffs in the NFC. It's not just some cakewalk. There's a lot of good teams. Super Bowl plus 5,500, but man, we are through team number 16. The next 4 team previews, only 2 of the teams haven't made last year. Got 16 teams left. Only the Jags and forget the other team that we're going to break down didn't make the playoffs last year.
Yeah, we definitely are in the obviously the top half at this point. Good football teams. Jags got to go down because we have some good football teams over here too. So.
Yeah, and the Jags and Bengals, a lot of teams have those guys making the playoffs, and they're the last 2 that didn't.
If you haven't yet, go back and listen to the other 12 teams. We've been cruising through. Like, subscribe. These are only on YouTube at this very moment. We'll be back on the audio version once football season starts. But we're trying to build this YouTube channel. Tell all your friends about it. Tell everybody how awful these predictions are, so they come and listen to how terrible they are, and then they want to discuss them. So.
And please, if you listen just for one team and you fast forward to your team, you're just interested in what we have to say, or you listen to every pod religiously, if you subscribe, it'll be helpful, and maybe get one friend to just join the Facebook page for 2 Fans 12 Rings, or even subscribe to the YouTube channel. They don't even have to watch. Just help grow our channel a little bit if you could. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Share it around if you want.
Everybody's cheerful and hopeful going into the NFC season. Let's spread the word, and let's create a community discussion each week about the breakdowns of these teams and the games and power rankings and how we do it all.
I don't think we've been unfair to any team yet, unless you're maybe a Panthers or a Giants fan. But outside of that, I think everybody has some optimism. I hope you guys are digging what we're doing. And obviously, as we get into some of the better teams, it'll be nice to kind of take them down a peg, because not everybody can win the same amount of games and dominate the league like they did the year before.
That's right.
So I am going to enjoy the beach life and this Airbnb. Anything else from you, sir?
Nope, just about to watch do some DGen gambling on baseball and play some college football 25.
Love to hear it, dude. Take care, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.